Hawks Nation, what is going on? Welcome to another edition of the HawksFanTV podcast. I'm your host, Mac, and as you can see, I'm running this week's episode solo. Our co-host, AJ, is actually out getting his wisdom teeth taken out, so he'll be out for the next week or two. Definitely sending well wishes to AJ and a speedy recovery as well. Hopefully he doesn't get too loopy on those meds they give him. As I mentioned, though, he'll be back in a couple weeks, and when he does come back, we're going to do our season recap episode. I'm actually really excited about that one myself. We're going to go over our favorite moments, plays, players, and whatnot of the season, storylines, and also our least favorite moments and players and storylines of the season. So I'm excited about that one. It'll be a good time. So definitely be on the lookout for that one, guys. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get right into it. First, I'm going to recap game 5 and 6 against the Celtics. I know game 5 was a little bit ago, but this is the first episode that we've recorded since then. Game 5 was a doozy, man. It was a fun game for us Hawks fans. We started out hot, hit 6 threes in the first quarter, kind of, cooled down a little bit in the second and third with the Celtics kind of just showing how, good of a team they are. I think that they proved that, hey, they were in the finals last year and could very well win it all this year. So I think at moments in this series that was very, very evident. But we were fighting with them the entire time. They never got up by too much. The most they ever got up by was by 13 in the fourth, which, is not great. But, hey, it was obviously manageable for us. We were able to come back. I think it was clear that, the Hawks didn't want their season to end. We had huge games. Obviously had a huge game out of Trae, 38 and 13. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later into the episode, kind of like what that meant for Hawks fans and really what it meant for me personally. But Trae had a huge game. John Collins had a big game, 22 points on 50% shooting. Bogey had 18 points. I think DeAndre had another 13, which is pretty good for DeAndre at this point. It's kind of crazy that obviously when, everybody is contributing and everybody is scoring, we actually win the game. So, it was a back and forth game. It was a battle. I think game 6 was a little bit more of a battle. Again, I'll get in that a little bit later. But needless to say, it was certainly a battle in game 5. And obviously very proud of the Hawks to pull that one off. And as I mentioned, it kind of, rejuvenated. I won't say rejuvenated, but it just, reminded me of why I love this darn team so much. So it was definitely a really fun game. I will say I do think there's 2 things from game 5 that I think are pretty glaring and really stick out to me. That, one of them is really awesome and one of them isn't as awesome. So I'll go over that one first. As crappy as it is to say at this point, I got some stats to back this up, and I'll say them in just a second. I think it's becoming kind of obvious that at least offensively, that the Hawks may be better when Trae or DeJounte aren't on the floor. You go back and look at all, DeJounte's biggest games, Trae's biggest games of the season, it's when the other one is out. Obviously DeJounte didn't play game 5 with him pushing the ref. And because of that, I thought we were going to lose. But, of course, Trae went off. And, it kind of reminded me a little bit of a reminiscent of his, rookie year and first couple of years in the season, first couple of seasons in the league where he would, have to do so much on his end. But, hey, the Hawks still won. This isn't to say that I don't think Trae and DeJounte can play together. I honestly I would argue against that. I don't think there's, anything wrong with it, but there's a famous saying these days, especially amongst my generation and professional athletes right now, and that's men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. And the numbers right here are that in 352 regular season minutes when the two are both on the court under Coach Snyder. So remember, this is I believe it's 28 games that Coach Snyder has coached in the regular season. So 352 minutes that they're sharing the court. Atlanta has had a negative 7.6 net efficiency, including a 111.7 offensive rating, which would put them for 5th worst in the league. So it's when the numbers are that glaring and that lopsided, and when it does seem that whenever Trae is out or DeJounte is out, that the other one just goes off for 40 plus points almost, and dang near 15 assists. It's like, that's why both of these guys were in the All-Star game last season, when DeJounte was in San Antonio. But it's something that it's a little unfortunate because there were plenty of people that when the move was made this offseason, it's something that gets said a lot when 2 dudes like that get on the same basketball team, is that there's only one ball. What are they going to do? And I don't know if they completely, prove those doubters wrong. So I do think that's something that I'm hoping is addressed in the offseason and they can, kind of get under control under Quinn. I personally do think that will happen, but it's definitely something that they need to put a little bit of focus on. So yeah, now that I got done with the bad news, I'll talk about the glaring thing that was awesome from Game 5, and that is the shot from Trae Young, and that shot is insane. It's like almost giving me chills talking about it now. I'm dang near positive I woke up both my neighbors by by yelling so loud when he hit it. He obviously hit the shoulders. I got my Ice Trae shirt on right now. That shot, like, I know this is a huge hypothetical, but if the Hawks were to go on and win Game 6 and even pull off a win in Game 7 against the Celtics, I'm telling you that would go down as one of the most replayed and one of the more famous shots in playoff history. It will most certainly not have that level of fame, but it was that big of a shot. It was that hard of a shot. I mean, the whole night. Well, not even the whole night, basically the whole series, he would get Horford switched on him at the top of the key, and, that's easy money. He had Jaylen Brown on him. I mean, I know Jaylen wasn't up in his face, but Jaylen Brown's a great defender, and Trae just yammed in his face. So it was a beautiful thing. It was something that, I think we as Hawks fans and we as sports fans, damn it, we needed it. That was a beautiful moment. So thank you, Trae Young, and yeah, that was awesome. So now, we'll get into Game 6, and I'll be honest, guys. I know I just said that I knew we were going to lose Game 5 and we didn't, so I'm shouldn't sound super believable here, but I knew we were going to lose Game 6. As crappy as that is to say, the Celtics were not going to allow us to push it to 7 and them have their backs against the wall at home and have something like what happened in Game 5 happen in Game 7, where Trae Young is just unstoppable offensively and they lose by one shot. They weren't going to let that happen. This is a team that I get all 30 teams are going for a championship each season. Well, realistically, there's only about 4 or 5 that are actually going for a championship, and the Celtics are one of them. So I knew it was going to happen. I will say it was that's why you don't hear much sadness or anger behind my voice right now, because I was thoroughly impressed by the Hawks' effort. It was a battle through and through. It was a close game the entire way. It just kind of was what I thought would happen, and what a lot of people thought were going to happen. This wasn't a very hot take by me, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were just going to be too much, and that ended up being true. And it just, again, kind of like they did in Game 5, but they weren't able to cap it off and finish it. It was close the entire way, and then in the fourth quarter, they go on 11-0 run and go by like 8 points. And it was just at that point how close of a game it had been. An 8-point lead just felt like insurmountable, and sure enough, it was. Like, guys, there were 22 lead changes and 15 ties in this game. Like, that's insane. This game was constantly going back and forth. So the effort level from the guys was incredibly high and incredibly respectable. So it's definitely not anything I think any Hawks fan should hang their head low on. Trae was, in my mind, he seemed a little gassed, which is understandable. The dude had been going off this entire series, especially late in the games. But with that being said, I'm honestly kind of bringing that because I do think that's something he will probably work on in the offseason. These guys are professional athletes. Their bodies are insane, but believe it or not, there probably are times in their career where they, could take it to the next level with, the level of endurance that they have or the level of strength they have or whatever it may be. So I do expect that to happen for Trae, and I'm excited to see, what that guy does next season. I'll get into my confession of love for Trae in just a second. But Trae's quote on Quinn after the game was something that I think I absolutely love to hear, and I don't think it was just coach talk, which, I mean, it's coming from a player, so I guess you could say player talk. But he said that Quinn is the future, and I believe with him here, this city is going to win a championship. And I said that when we hired him. If you go back and listen to the podcast that week, I did say that. I was like, I do think this is a hire that could ultimately win the Hawks a championship. I don't know about plural. This could be a Nick Nurse situation. This could be, goodness gracious. Well, for right now, Tyronn Lue, it could be one of those, all right? It could be a one-time thing, but you know what? I think any Hawks fan right now will take at least one championship. So yeah, it was a hard-fought game. I, have a ton of respect. All the Hawks all the Hawks starters scored in double figures. So again, huge effort across the board from the team on that one. 62 points out of Jaylen Brown and Tatum, like I said, though. So it's just proved that they were a little bit too much, But, it is what it is. As I've said a couple of times and alluded to it, the reason why me as a Hawks fan right now, I'm actually in pretty high spirits is Trae Young did exactly what I felt like I needed out of him. And, out of even really the Hawks, and that was that he reminded me everything that I need to be reminded of, and that he is, he's got that dog in him, as they would say these days. 38-13 in an elimination game on the road. Like, please go look that up through all of the NBA stats in history. And I'm telling you, that stat line has happened 10 to 15 times. Like, that is insane to put up that stat line in that situation. And, he's the most overrated player in the league. Like, oh my gosh, exactly. He, you guys, whatever. So it's insane. He went 30-10 in an off game in game 6. And this is why, for me personally, the guy has slowly become my favorite athlete out there right now, and in all sports, not just basketball. He's a straight up assassin. I felt like, with that being said, and why I said I felt like I need to be reminded of, there were times this season where I do feel like he kind of, and even last season as well, maybe I don't want to say scared of the moment or intimidated or anything like that, because that's certainly not that in that guy's MO. But just, maybe the moment was getting a little too big for him. I don't know. Or maybe he just could, only pull the rabbit out of the hat, once every couple years or whatever it was. But I think, like I said, me personally, I just got reminded of everything that I need to be reminded of, and that Trae Young he's going to lead this team to a championship, guys. I said that, I feel like I've been saying that since he got drafted. I've said that on this podcast a couple of times. When the season got bad and we were, doing the mid off, and we were, losing a game, win a game, lose a game, win a game, I still would say that this team has the potential still to win a championship, and Trae Young is why. You look at what and the guy I'm about to mention, I understand some people get a little tired of this comparison, but I think it's becoming a fair one, at least in their style of play, and at least the impact they can make on the court. And I mean, you look at Steph Curry, the guy is playing LeBron tonight and is going to, go for his 5th ring this year, right? So there's just no doubt in my mind that, Trae could at least do half of that. So, I got a lot of faith, and I'll say this, I don't think anybody in the Atlanta fan base, and I'm saying this because it did happen this year, I'm not going to call anybody out, but it certainly happened this year. I don't think anybody needs to give up on all ice Trae just yet. I think if you do that, you may just end up regretting it. So yeah, it is what it is, but don't give up on all ice Trae. Yeah. So before we go to the last topic of the episode, just kind of the outlook for the off season. As always, want to make sure you guys hear our message from our guys over at Firmament.
When you need quick, effective, and accurate data cabling services, call Firmament Solutions. We care about your network infrastructure. Our services are white labeled, so you get the contracts. We provide the services. Our expertise includes low voltage communication, networking, electrical, physical security, and life safety equipment. We're industry leaders, providing 24-hour service coverage. So we ask, when is the best time to have one of our certified technicians assist you?
All right, guys. Yeah, it's always great to hear our message from Firmament. And, if that's something that your small business could use, or even if you could use it just to kind of speed up some work at your home for maybe you're running a podcast, who knows? Definitely check out Firmament. I think that could definitely help you guys out a lot. So as I mentioned before the break, we'll just kind of look at the outlook of the offseason. I kind of had a couple notes here, but I think I'll start with this because it was breaking news before before I recorded, Mike Budenholzer from the Milwaukee Bucks has been fired. I I don't want to laugh, never want to laugh at a man losing his job. He's a millionaire, so I'm not going to get that upset for him. But I don't know if it was completely fair. I know, you lose as a 1 seed in the first round in the playoffs, and that's pretty heavy. But to have a championship in your back pocket just from 2 years ago, I do think that was a little quick. So with that being said, I do think a team is going to get a pretty good head coach out of that. Emphasis on the head coach. I know I saw Alex actually tweeted out from the account that he'd make a great assistant on the Hawks, and I totally agree. I think that would be actually a very cool full circle moment, especially if he was able to help Atlanta win their first championship. But because of his pedigree and because of more than likely his ego as well, I don't see him being an assistant coach next season. He'll get a head coaching job somewhere, and we'll just have to wish him well, I guess. But yeah, now that that's out of the way, I think really with this offseason, there's going to be a lot of roster adjustment that needs to be made. And if it is made, it's going to have to be via trades or cuts, because I believe it's 14 dudes are wrapped up contractually right now. So there's not going to be a lot of movement unless we do make a trade or something like that. So with that being said, I do think a trade will be made. There's the obvious names of John Collins, DeAndre, maybe Clint Capella. But at this point, I'm okay with whatever happens. I, for one, I've said it on previous episodes, wish all these guys well, but I want to see a new roster next year. So I will definitely be okay with any, I won't say any move that is made, but almost any move to at least, seemingly improve the team. I'm okay with it. So, and, I think a lot of these moves should be made to improve the defense, because, Quinn was able to take our offense that was already pretty good and make it even that much better. We were top 5 offense efficiency since Quinn took over. But I believe we were 29th defensively. No, it's 29th in paint points allowed. So that's just our defense has been very, very subpar, and I will say even more than subpar, one of the worst in the league. So it's definitely something that, if we want to be legitimate title contenders, it's no shock at all that the defense is going to have to get better. You go back and look at the last 10, 15 championships, and I think almost every single team except for one was a top 10, defense efficiency rating. So there's just no getting around it. You're going to have to be a little bit better defensively if you actually want to compete for a championship in this league. So I think, it's defense in my mind, especially in basketball, I feel like it's more often than not an effort thing. These guys are all such great athletes, and they all have such long limbs and everything that, and are so fast and so athletic. Like I was mentioning, that again, I find it hard to believe that some of these guys, unless you're a Trae Young trying to cover, defend a guy that is 3-4 inches taller than you and's got like 30-40 pounds on you, like, yeah, I don't think there is a real excuse of why you weren't able to actually play at least some good defense on them. We've seen enough where these guys, as I was even talking about Trae Young and Jaylen Brown, there's going to be dudes that hand in their face, body up in them. It doesn't matter. They're still going to make it. It doesn't matter how good a defense you play, but you got to at least play it. I mean, I understand. I'm not, trying to knock these guys' effort too much, but I do think there's undoubtedly times where, maybe the motor could be running a little bit higher. We allowed the second most layup and dunk attempts since Snyder took over, which I got to admit is probably one of my least favorite stats personally, because I love protecting the paint and I love dominating the paint on the offensive end. That's, always just been something that I've enjoyed. It's a enjoyable form of basketball for myself, and it's something I do want to see improved in the offseason. I'm sure a lot of us do. And to kind of talk about some contracts, Bogey's contract will definitely put us in the luxury tax for the first time since Wrestler took over in 2014. So that old handsome devil Wrestler is finally going to have to pay that luxury tax. So, it's It's something that I'm sure he's not thrilled about, but I got to admit, at this point, I don't really care, man. Pay that luxury tax. But yeah, I got to say there's not too much to say because really, obviously, we're still going to be recording episodes in the off season. So I don't want to, dissect rather the off season a little bit too much on this first episode. But, I'll kind of leave it at this that, I should say and do expect for there to be a different roster next year with this Hawks team. And, it's looking a little bleak. I can't lie. We don't have too much control over it. We're going to have to make some deals with our teams. And obviously with that being said, they're going to have to be an agreeable terms and an agreeable attitude towards us. So, but yeah, do expect a different roster next year. And I honestly, we're gonna have to give up a guy or two for it, but I would say expect an additional star in Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown is gonna come on home to Atlanta, and it's gonna be fun, guys. But yeah, guys, we'll wrap up the episode on that. As always, thank you guys for listening, for the support of HawksFanTV. Follow us on Twitter at HawksFanTV, Instagram at HawksFanTV as well. Check out our website at HawksFanTV.com. That's where you'll find all of our articles and some other cool content as well. Yeah, guys, obviously the news cycle slows down a little bit with the offseason, but as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing History of the Hawks. I think you guys will really enjoy that. It's going to be really cool. And we'll still be having articles over the summer about, potential trade options and, obviously when the draft rolls around and all that good stuff. So be on the lookout for all of the regular off-season content, guys, because we're going to be pumping it out and can't wait for you guys to check it out. So as always, go Hawks and good night, everybody.